I love you guys. Be yourselves and celebrate yourselves. Hello beloveds, Satnam, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to share with you 5 tips for being your authentic self, which really means being yourself. And these will be completely based on my own personal experiences. Yesterday I made a poll and asked which video you would like to see next, and this topic was by far the most chosen one. So if you'd like, comment below and let me know your struggles with being authentic. I'm genuinely curious and I will answer all your questions on the comments below. Okay, so I will begin this with talking a little bit about how I became comfortable with myself and being myself. We are taught to be ashamed of who we really are. We suffer from toxic shame as a species, and this is a result of being taught and believing deep in our core that we are not good enough. Basically, that's what it all comes down to, is forgetting who we are and feeling embarrassed or ashamed for who we are when we take away all the layers, especially the outer layers. We wear makeup, we buy fancy clothes, and we buy materialistic things in society that makes us play a role that's different than who we really are, even online. I don't look like this all the time. If you look on my Instagram, or anyone's Instagram for that matter, it is all the highlight reels. So we play roles, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but when we begin to identify with those roles, then we forget the self. So when I was growing up, some of you who have been following me for a while might have heard this story before. When I was growing up, I was super materialistic, and I got attention for my sexuality and my womanhood at a young age. This is basically what I identified myself with, and I was one of those girls when I was 15, 16, saying I want to be the most beautiful I could possibly be, and I want to have the most money I could possibly have, and I don't want to work. I'm beautiful, so I'll just marry someone rich. And of course that is a very sad way of thinking. If I went down that route, I would have never found my passions, and I would have never found myself, and I can guarantee that I would be very unhappy. I kind of came into all the materials that I thought I wanted and realized that I was extremely unhappy. So I went soul searching all around the world and slowly released and got rid of all those layers and beliefs that I had accumulated within myself growing up in Western society. And then I went to the next extreme, which was kind of like had no materials whatsoever, and I guess I was a hippie, as some people would say, and I lived out of a backpack for a few years. I lived out of cars and vans, and it was a lot of fun, and I was happy, but I still didn't feel like myself. And I still had friends because I used to model when I was younger, and I had good friends from that part of life. So I had friends that were still in the nightclub scene. I used to work in nightclubs, and I wanted to see them, but then when I was in that environment, I felt really out of place. I felt judged, and not by my friends, but by the people around them. And then when I was around my hippie friends, I felt like they were judging me because I might wear makeup sometimes, or I might wear a nice dress, and I might care what I look like, or I might want a nice car. And I was judged so much for this and put down. So it almost felt like I was faking in both worlds, and I couldn't find myself and a healthy balance. And I felt always like I had to choose between one of the two. Finally, when I truly committed to a spiritual practice, which really just consists of spending time looking within each and every day, I then found myself. And when you find yourself and you know who you are and you know your values and you know what you're passionate about and you learn your purpose in this existence, you just stop caring what other people think. So I said, screw them, and this is who I am. If someone wants to judge me, I don't care. And especially online, I get judged literally every day. I really don't care. When I was a teenager, it would have killed me. Right now, it just goes in one ear and out the other, or if I read it, I don't even think about it again. It doesn't bother me because I know who I am. So I might be a businesswoman one day, I might be a hippie the next day, and I want to flourish in my life. I want to be abundant, and I think we're meant to be abundant. So yes, I do have strong values for making the world a better place, and I live a vegan lifestyle, and I live a compassionate lifestyle, and I do share what I think will benefit people the most by sharing it on here in my one-on-one coaching and in my classes. And it has really become a balance between spirituality and the physical world, the material world. And maybe this is where some of my teachings differ because it's from a tantric perspective. So it's really about knowing who you are, and even the shadow parts, loving all of it. So I am going off a little bit on this point. Now I'm going to get into the top 5 ways to be your authentic self. Number 1, celebrate your uniqueness. We are all unique expressions of the same divine essence. In my path, which is specifically non-dual Shaiva Tantra, it's believed that the universe, or Shiva, created this whole reality, which is Shakti, all of this physical world, in order to experience itself in all different realities. So no one's reality will ever be the same. And that's what makes this whole existence so beautiful. So why are we trying to all have the same reality and all look the same and all be the same? Because we're scared of being judged. Again, we're raised in a society that has taught us to try to fit in. But if you look back in history, all of the greatest teachers and the greatest humans who have ever lived and who have made the biggest impacts have all been outcast from normal society. And where I grew up, unfortunately, there is a lot of racism. And once I started traveling, of course, I was a bit scared because I've heard all of these things based on separation between nations. And really, I have learned that our uniqueness is what makes us all so beautiful in our own way. If you travel, you will really begin to appreciate the different appearances and cultures and flavors of the world. Otherwise, it would be so boring. So celebrate your uniqueness, what makes you you. Number 2, know who you are and your purpose here. Have you asked yourself, and I mean really ask yourself through meditation, journaling, self-reflection, what is your purpose here on earth? And after you figure that out and you know it, because you know your heart it'll be a pull, it won't be a push anymore. Every day sometimes we have to push ourselves to get up out of bed, push ourselves to do this. When we're following our purpose, it's not a push anymore, it's a pull. Your heart is being pulled because you are in alignment with your highest frequency, your highest purpose. So have you found that? And when you do, are all of your actions, maybe not all of them, but most of your actions in your life aligning with that purpose? As I said before, I'm judged almost every single day. I'm from a very hateful, I can say hateful town, and anyone who leaves that town, people say terrible things about them, and they say, oh, they're only successful because they're a drug dealer, or they're only successful because they're doing something illegal, or something like that, because they don't want to admit or that they might not be following their purpose, so of course they're going to hate. So don't worry about the haters. Know that you have a purpose, and once you have that, and once you feel that pull, you just won't care anymore what other people think. Of all the infinite possibilities that the universe had to manifest itself, it chose you. That is absolutely so beautiful, and you are a miracle. Your existence is not a mistake. It is so important. So stop playing small, figure out your grand purpose of this lifetime, and go full force into it. Number 3, choose your tribe carefully. Do the people in your life encourage you to be yourself? This is a really important one. I only surround myself around people who encourage and inspire me. And honestly, I show one part of my life on social media. If you got to know me a little better, I am kind of weird and I'm really inappropriate a lot of the time. So if I have people around me, they have to be people that are open-minded and not judgmental. These are people who will never make me feel ashamed for being me. Even if they don't agree with some of the things I do or some of the things I say, they still love me, they still encourage me, and they still appreciate my existence rather than wanting me to play small and wanting me to be someone else that fits into the box of society and the box of their own image. And honestly, sometimes this means that you have to be alone. I'm alone a lot. Over the years, I have realized that being alone and being happy and being yourself and being free to do what you want and be who you are is so much more important than having friendships that don't support you along your highest purpose here. And maybe you have a family member that, or someone that you have to be, a coworker that you have to be around, and they make you feel small. In this situation, set up energetic boundaries. And what I like to constantly remind myself if someone is bringing me down who has to be around me, I always remember that everyone is living at the level of consciousness that they're meant to. We cannot push them further along or make them understand our own journeys. We all have our own separate journey. So we have to love people for that. Instead of judging them or wanting them to be a certain way or treat us a certain way, if they're not ready to, they're not going to be able to. So don't let this stress you out. Don't let it make you sick inside, and don't let it affect your own health. Set up that boundary, set up that energetic wall, and try not to take it personally. Know that it's all about them and not about you. Number 4, recognize when you are being inauthentic. When does this most occur in your life? When do you find that you're most struggling with being yourself and trying to be someone else? I think the last time, which was a few years ago now, that I really noticed I was being inauthentic. And sometimes I catch myself a little bit on social media because honestly, it is so difficult to stay away from your ego all the time, every day on social media when you're here daily. So I have to constantly check in with that. But those are more small things. This one was a bit more noticeable, and that was when I was single and I began talking to an actor that I was romantically interested in. And I will say that this type of career path is very ego-driven, and it's easy for actors to become inauthentic, of course, because they're playing roles all the time. And I'm of course not saying that all actors are like that. I have friends who are not whatsoever. But this one in particular, very concerned about his image and was very concerned about presenting himself in a certain way, and therefore his partner to present themselves in a certain way. And I had gone from staying in ashrams to going back to this atmosphere because I knew it very well when I was younger, and I was able to step aside, step out of my ego, and recognize right away that I was becoming very ego-driven myself, and I was being inauthentic in the way that I was talking a certain way, I was acting what was appropriate in my environment. And I don't like that because I want to be me. I love myself and I love what makes me me. I don't want to hide that to fit into someone else's box again. So that didn't last long, and it taught me the valuable lesson of choosing your tribe, choosing your environment, and always checking in and becoming aware. And then of course, when you recognize where you're being inauthentic, you can then make the changes to being in environments and around people that make you feel free to be yourself. Number 5, embrace your shadow. So if you have followed me for a while, you may have noticed that I talk pretty openly about different parts of my life. One of them being when I used to be an exotic dancer. And I had the choice to come on here and completely hide certain things about me. Another one is abusive relationships. These are things that I'm not proudly going around telling people, but I feel like this is information that will benefit others by sharing. So I have to put my ego aside, and I have to embrace these dark parts of me. These are the parts that aren't openly accepted in society. When I first started dancing, I was very strict about no one knowing. My family didn't know. I've still never really talked to my family about it, but they've probably seen the videos now. And but none of my friends knew. And then finally, after a year, I sat all my friends down from Canada back home, and I said, you guys, this is eating at me. I have to tell you guys this. I've been a dancer this past year. And they all just looked at me and said, yeah, we kind of figured. Because obviously I'm not a good liar. I'm not good at hiding things. They never asked me. I don't think I could lie, but I just thought it was like this huge thing that I was hiding from everyone. Anyways, when I finally let it out, I didn't care anymore because my friends didn't judge me, and I realized I had created this whole thing in my mind about how maybe people don't want to be my friend and I have to act this certain way, and this line of work is so shamed in society. I need to be so ashamed of my choices, even though it's helping me in my higher purpose. I always knew that. I always had that vision. Just the way that I decided to get there wasn't the most conventional. So when I realized that I needed to embrace my shadow, I don't have it hanging up right now, but when I do my apartment tour, if you want to watch that video, it'll be on there. I got a 5.5-foot painting done of me as a stripper, and it was an actual picture of me when I was a dancer. I had cat ears on because my name was Kat, and this might sound crazy to some people, but to me, it was a really liberating moment where I decided to completely, wholeheartedly embrace a shadow part of me that I was so scared of sharing with others before. And the thing is, if God or the universe, whatever you want to call it, our creator, our source, if all these things were wrong with us, they or it, whatever you want to call it, would not have created it. So of course these are the things I mean that are not hurting other people or hurting yourself. So these are things that are just shamed by the church, by society, that again make us feel like we are not enough, and that is where our toxic shame comes from. So embrace those parts of you that again make you you. Your shadow is just as unique as your regular self. At the end of the day, no one decides who you are but you. And that is really important because when I was younger, I didn't know who I was, so I let other people around me decide it for me. Don't be that person. Know who you are, know your purpose, go into it, and fuck the rest of them. Sorry, I try not to swear on here, but seriously, I love you guys. Be yourselves and celebrate yourselves. So tons of love to you guys. Again, comment below if you want on this topic. I would be really interested to hear your thoughts on it and your personal struggles. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and that little bell below that notifies you when I make new videos. I am now creating 3 videos per week and having so much fun, seriously being more active on this platform and connecting with all of you. So I will see you all again soon. Sat Nam.